Hey guys, so today we have an analysis of the latest polls that we've been getting over from Real Clear Politics. Now, we've got a lot to cover, a lot that may or may not change my 2018 Senate and House forecast. Unfortunately, we only have, I believe, 2 states worth of governor polls. They could also change with these latest numbers. Now, looking at the Indiana Senate race, we'll start off with Indiana. Mike Braun is now led in the last 2 polls that have been done in the state of Indiana. That's not too good for Joe Donnelly, considering he is the incumbent. Voters are coming back to the Republican Party. You could see in previous polling 41, 44, 45, 41, 43, but now they're coming back and kind of away from the Libertarian candidate. Now, I think most of these people in the 3% will probably end up going for Mike Braun at the end of the day. It's pretty much kind of a swing state, if you will. Maybe a slight lean over to the Democrats, but because of the brand new poll that we've been getting, I'm moving the state of Indiana from leaning Democratic into tilt Democratic, considering the last 2 polls that have come out show Mike Braun ahead. If we get some more polling data that confirms that, one more poll, I would move it into the Republican column, and that would give them a 53-47 margin, but for now I'm keeping it in the Democratic column very narrowly. Next, we have the Arizona Senate race between Martha McSally and Kristen Sinema. Now, Sinema was getting a little bit worried since her lead was narrowing, and then it jumped to McSally +6, +2. But now Sinema's back in the lead with this latest CBS News poll. She's still losing overall, but I think that Sinema, I think with this latest poll, I feel that I believe there's a Green Party candidate in this race. Maybe she could, maybe he or she in the Green Party could kind of take votes away from Sinema, especially considering Sinema is a conservative Democrat. Then for Martha McSally, there is a possibility that Doug Ducey could drag Martha McSally over the finish line. Overall, though, I think that Kristen Sinema could narrowly edge this one out with heightened Democratic enthusiasm. I think I'm putting this in the tilt Democratic column. So, yeah. Next, we have the Florida Senate race, a poll done by the CBS News YouGov, and it's pretty much showing not good news for Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson has now consistently led in many of the polls that have been done in the state of Florida. He's consistently led, but now it seems that because we're not getting very consistent data from the state. I mean, we have a Nelson +8, Scott +1, Nelson +1, Scott +1, Nelson +4, and we get a tie. Now, I don't know what it is about this poll, but it seems to be underestimating the Democratic strength in the state of Florida. This one could go either way, but at the moment, I'm keeping it in the leaning Democratic column. Also in Florida, we had a New York Times Siena poll done, which is very reliable. I really like their method of polling with the live polling, and they show you where they're getting their information from. Nelson up 4, that's pretty good news for Bill Nelson. Again, a tie and +4 evens out to Nelson +2, and that's reflected in leaning Democratic. Next, we have the Arizona governor race between Doug Ducey and David Garcia. As we talked about with the other Arizona race, the Senate race, there is a chance Doug Ducey would drag over Martha McSally, and vice versa. But at the moment, this is looking like a pretty safe bet for Doug Ducey. His lead has narrowed since +18 and +17 down to +11. I'm keeping it in the likely GOP column. I really feel it slides in there very well. Next, we have the Florida governor race between Ron DeSantis and Andrew Gillum. 2 polls from this race, a CBS News YouGov poll and a New York Times poll. The CBS poll that showed a tie also shows Gillum leading by 1, And then the New York Times poll shows Gillum leading by 5. Now, what I'm really interested in these two polls, if we go back and look at the Florida race in the Senate, you can see the tie with CBS and then Gillum +1. That's a 1-point edge for Gillum over Nelson. Now, if we go and look at the New York Times poll, Nelson +4, then Nelson +4, now Gillum +5. The spread is Gillum +3.2, Nelson +2.6, pretty close. But they have very similar bases, is my point, and not many people were like crossing party lines, if you will. If we look at Rick Scott, 46, average of 44.8, and for Ron DeSantis, average of 44.3. Same thing on the other side. For Nelson, average of 47.4, 47.5. So they both have the same bases, pretty much, in these polls. So that's something very briefly I wanted to touch on. Now, the Florida governor race, I'm keeping it in the leaning Democratic column. With these new polls, that definitely indicates that. Now, moving on to the congressional races, we have Iowa 3, New York 11, and New York 24. Now, the first two are done by the New York Times, which is very reliable. The latest poll we had has the Democrat up 2 points if we go into our House forecast in the state of Iowa. By the way, this is my House prediction, 232 to 203. I have Iowa 3 as a leaning Democratic district. I definitely will keep it there. If we get a few more polls that show this kind of margin, I would consider moving it into the tilt column, but for now I'm keeping it in the leaning column. So next we have New York's 11th district between Daniel Donovan and Max Rose. It's a leaning GOP district, the Republican up 4 points. If we go into the state of New York, if I can find it, the 11th district, so we go in and we go into New York City. Here we go, the 11th district. This is the one with the little island on it. Republican favored to win here, but again, it could go either way. Now in the 24th district, it's a likely GOP district. Siena poll shows the Republican leading by 14. That's pretty much expected. If we go back out into the 24th district, I have this as leaning GOP, considering I have another poll that strengthens it. I'm actually going to move it into the likely GOP column, so that's moving in favor of the Republicans. So that's it. That's all the polling for today, guys. Thanks, guys, for stopping on in. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one.